And in fact, in some of these instances, not only does nothing happen to the protesters, but they sue the city, and then the city settles with them with our money. So not only are they not charged criminally, they're rewarded with our tax money for doing these things. This segment is brought to you by Eastside Weight Loss Clinic. Some patients like me can lose 20 to 30 pounds in a month or two. Schedule your free 15-minute consultation today at eastsideweightlossclinic.com. On the show earlier this week, I gave a lot of praise and credit to San Francisco because they did something that, frankly, I said Seattle and other liberal jurisdictions like New York City that have been dealing with protests gone awry ought to be doing. So back in April, protesters, pro-Palestine demonstrators blocked the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, trapping travelers on there. And so the DA in San Francisco, as we reported on the show this week, decided we're going to throw the freaking book at these people. And they decided to charge 26 of those protesters with false imprisonment, a felony, along with a number of other felony and misdemeanor charges. And I thought, hell yeah, that's the only way you're going to stop this from happening. And it is false imprisonment. That's exactly what it is. When you are stopping another human being from moving about freely when they are not free to go where they're trying to go, that's false imprisonment. And I don't know when San Francisco came, yeah, I do, the election year, San Francisco became the beacon of common sense. In California, Gavin Newsom's all of a sudden like, we're cracking down on homeless encampments. I want police to do their jobs. I mean, look, I don't care if his motivation is political. The outcome is better for people, so I'm still going to call him on his hypocrisy, but by all means, clear the homeless camps. By all means, crack down on drug abusers. By all means, crack down on drug pushers and be supportive of the police. If it is an election year, I just hope it sticks. And then San Francisco is the same. I mean, that had been the worst city in America. San Francisco had been, and it's still not great, don't get me wrong, but the poster child for progressive policies gone wrong. And now all of a sudden, what are they doing? Removing homeless encampments, going after repeat offenders, charging demonstrators, far left demonstrators with felonies. So I saw that this week and I thought maybe there is hope for Washington State. Because after all we do here is copy California. They hit rock bottom before us. Do we really have to now hit rock bottom ourselves before we realize, well, we saw what happened when San Francisco hit rock bottom, so let's do an about face beforehand. Now, I know Seattle's city council has gone a little bit towards the middle, but there's still some wild stuff going on, and I thought this is a perfect opportunity. We got these cases involving pro-Palestine demonstrators. They blocked I-5 for hours. They blocked SeaTac Airport, the only road in and out of the arrivals and departure zone. And we thought at the time, well, this is domestic terrorism because you're stopping air travel. You had pilots who had to get out and walk so they could fly airplanes. And so after I saw what happened in San Francisco, I'm like, let's do it here. This is unlawful imprisonment. They also charged them with conspiracy in California. Obviously, there's conspiracy here because they don't just all of a sudden decide independent of one another, like, I'm going to go and block the freeway today. Like, no, they conspired to do it. So I was like, let's see it. Oh, San Francisco did it. What are we going to do here? So let's check in with the Seattle Times and see what's going to happen to those protesters, the pro-Palestine protesters who blocked the entry to SeaTac Airport. They're going to get charged with felonies, right? 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 No, not only are they not being charged with felonies, prosecutors in the city of SeaTac are going to dismiss charges. So you can't get much different than what San Francisco did. The Seattle Times headline, charges set to be dropped for protesters who blocked SeaTac Airport Road. Prosecutors for the city of SeaTac agreed to dismiss charges after a maximum of 6 months on the condition that each defendant attends court hearings as needed, has no crime violations, and does not step on SeaTac Airport property except for travel purposes. I love that they include that. Like, you stop people from going to SeaTac to travel, yet you can still continue to go to SeaTac to travel. A bigger punishment would be you're not allowed there anymore. You've been trespassed. So you're going to have to go all the way to Portland or something if you want to fly. But no, we can't do that to them. And then it says they can file for immediate dismissal, like not even have to wait 6 months, if they do 10 hours of community service. 10 hours of community service? Hell, sometimes I go pick up trash in my neighborhood for no reason in the world, and that's added up to more than 10 hours in the last couple months. And I didn't block airline travelers. It's insane. And then we also found out, and we've have inquiries in to figure out what's going on here, but, so they've got the charges being dismissed against these others, but 9 of them, their cases had already been dismissed because they couldn't access public defenders. So I don't know if there's a public defender shortage, and I agree with that, by the way. You have a right to have an attorney appointed to you if you cannot afford one. So yeah, if they can't find me an attorney, then yeah, my case should be dismissed. I'm in full support of that. The question is this happening a lot? Is this happening in felony cases where they don't have a public defender? So it's like, well, I guess we'll just throw that one out. That's concerning. So we're trying to get to the bottom of that. And here's the real crazy thing. So the Seattle Times platforms in this story Sean Scott. So we talked about him in our election week coverage. Sean Scott is a socialist. He's a failed Seattle City Council candidate who's now running for State House in the 43rd Legislative District, which encompasses downtown Seattle. And for some reason, SeaTac isn't in his jurisdiction. He had or in the jurisdiction he's running for, he had a press conference where he came out and basically said, we need to not criminalize these demonstrators. Here's the quotes he gave the Seattle Times. This is mind-boggling. Sean Scott, a candidate for state representative in District 43, which includes much of downtown Seattle and Capitol Hill, said the protest was a necessary, quote, long-standing tradition in the Pacific Northwest. I'll get back to that in a moment. He went on to say, this is a baton that we're going to continue to carry for as long as we see our tax dollars going toward causes we don't agree with, Scott said. And we're going to continue to be out here until it stops. So basically saying we will absolutely throw a criminal temper tantrum, commit acts of domestic extremism whenever our tax dollars are being used for something that we don't like. That's just insane. But he says this is a long-standing tradition in the Pacific Northwest. As sad as that sounds, he's right, it is. Criminal acts of unrest are a long-standing tradition in the Pacific Northwest that these exact demonstrators have been allowed to get away with for far too long. And so he's like, well, now it's become a tradition. Now you can't throw the book at us now. We got to take over 6 square blocks of Seattle and nothing happened to them. They've been rioting on May Day and very few things happened to them. They're going back to the Occupy movement. We can block freeways. And in fact, in some of these instances, not only does nothing happen to the protesters, but they sue the city and then the city settles with them with our money. So not only are they not charged criminally, they're rewarded with our tax money for doing these things. So yes, it has become a long-standing tradition. It's a sick long-standing tradition. It's a ridiculous long-standing tradition, but it's a long-standing Pacific Northwest tradition nonetheless. But think about that. You have a candidate who, by the way, was the top performing candidate in his race for the 43rd out of the primary. Andrea Suarez came in second. He's a socialist. Downtown Seattle. Got over 50% of the vote at last check. And he says that when it comes to people who blocked airline travelers, this is a tradition. We're going to continue to do this as long as we see our tax dollars going towards things that we don't agree with. So that's a promise, right? They're going to continue to do this. And even though you have someone like him, a socialist, far leftist who encourages this behavior, even though he's promising we're going to continue to do this, SeaTac prosecutors are like, we'll drop charges. So yeah, keep doing this. You think they're not going to do it again when they are facing no consequences? Oh, I'm sorry. They are facing consequences. 10 hours of community service. That's going to be really challenging. I'm sure that they've learned their lesson. For the love of God. When San Francisco is a beacon of sanity compared to Seattle, you know that things have gone drastically, drastically wrong.